In this video I will cover the use of WMI within VBScripts, along with an introduction of the use of VBScripts with Active Directory. Windows Management Instrumentation, or WMI for short, can be used to manage devices and applications on Windows operating systems. There are numerous settings and configurations that can be read, amended or set using WMI, which are outside of the scope of this video. But I will give an overview here, of how you can use WMI within your VBScripts, to accomplish some of these tasks. One of the most difficult aspects of using WMI is knowing where to start when creating your script, as it is extremely likely that somebody else has already wanted to do something similar previously. Then the best place to start is to search for a VBScript on the internet, that uses WMI to accomplish the task in question. One of the best resources for the correct VBScript WMI syntax used to be a tool created by Microsoft called Script-O-Matic. However, this is not as useful as it used to be, as unfortunately it doesn't run properly on Windows 10. You can still get it to launch if you run it from an administrator console, but it does take a little while to fully load, as shown. Once loaded, you can search the WMI classes for the appropriate class to use, that contains the syntax you require. Unfortunately, the run button etc. no longer work correctly and produce errors if you try to use them. However, you can copy the code and paste it into Notepad++ and save it as a VBScript file, which will allow you to amend the script as required, to keep the parts that are useful for your needs. You will notice that this script has multiple wscript.echo lines, so I would recommend running this from the command line, using cscript.exe. Otherwise you will have a wscript.echo message box displayed for each line, if you double-click the script to run it. Here's the code saved as a VBScript file, and it only needs a quick change to make it suitable for any machine. By changing the computer name in the array brackets, to a dot, which just signifies that we want to run the WMI query on this computer, and here's what this example WMI script shows, when run from the command line using cscript.exe. In this example script I am using WMI to enumerate through all of the running processes on a machine, looking for any Firefox processes that might be running before displaying the relevant message. Although this particular script isn't very useful in its current form, it could be amended so that for instance you could search for a running application and carry out some specific tasks. In this example script I am executing a WMI query, to get the computer make and model from the relevant WMI class, before displaying the information in a message box. Again, this script could be amended to perform certain tasks, relevant to a specific make and model of computer. And finally, in this example, I am using another WMI query, but this time to find out the current default printer. This particular script could be amended to change the default printer to a network printer, for example, by using the setDefaultPrinter method of the WSH network object. If you work with Active Directory on a day-to-day basis, it can sometimes be useful to create and use scripts to perform certain tasks. For example, you might need to create hundreds of new user accounts, which would be much easier with a script than having to manually create them. To do this, along with some other types of scripting languages, VBScript uses the LDAP protocol to interact with Active Directory. In this first example I am assigning the Active Directory common name for a user, to a variable, before using that variable in a set statement with the GetObject function, to bind to the LDAP user object. The script then gets information from various user attributes, stored in Active Directory. Then finally displays the results using wscript.echo. Running the script produces the results shown here. In this next example of how to create an Active Directory object, I create a group called GRP-test users, in the organizational unit called user groups. The first line of the script, after the comment line, gets the user groups object from Active Directory using the LDAP query shown. And the second line of the script creates the group with ACN equal to GRP-test users. The third line puts the group name into the SAM account attribute of the newly created group object. And finally the setInfo action is used to update the newly created object in Active Directory. And if we run the script, we see that the group is created as expected. And here is a quick example of how to add an existing user called TestUser1 to our newly created group. You will see that we have to declare a constant, as shown to accomplish this task. In the set statement I am getting the GRP-TestUser group object, which is in the user group SOU, using the LDAP query shown. Then appending TestUser1 as a member of the group, before finally updating the objects in Active Directory. And in this slightly more complex script example I am creating a new user account called VBSUser7. And assigning values to some of the AD attributes for the newly created account. Once the user account has been created and the AD object has been updated, I get the newly created user account object and enable the account, as by default accounts are disabled when creating them in AD. Then set an initial password so the user can log in. Before setting the flag on the user account, which defines that the user must change their password on first logon. And then updating the object in Active Directory. The script then creates a new group called VBS-users. Sets an attribute on the group and updates the object. Then the second to last line of the script adds our newly created user account to the newly created group. And finally the script displays a message that the process has completed. And finally this script shows how you could use variables to assign the various values required for creating a user account. Although the variables have been directly assigned within the script shown, this could be amended so that the information could be read into the script from a file. For example, in a real-world scenario you would get a comma-delimited file that would contain the new user details, first name, last name, department, etc. with one user per line. The script could be amended by adding in sections to read the file using the file system object and assign the various values from each line into your variables, using the comma to define each field within the file. You could do this by using the string manipulation techniques shown in a previous video. In the next and last video in this series, I will cover the process of creating a solution to a problem using VBScript, which will hopefully show some of the possible steps that can be taken to achieve automation of frequent or recurring tasks.